Welcome once again to Cliffhangers and Cocktails podcast with my co-host, Amy Sissel.
Amy Sissel. That's me.
And me, Shea McLeod. Both USA Today best-selling authors of paranormal women's fiction, among other things. This is brought to you, as always, by the Caftan Coven.
Today we're going to be talking with author C.N. Rowan about his books. We'll also be talking about the usual witchy things and general shenanigans. Woo-hoo. And first, before we go any further, I want to say happy belated Beltane to everyone. Woo-hoo. And we do have a mini-sode on this, so once this is over, go check that out.
Mm-hmm. Woohoo! And bring in some good Beltane energy. So, I have an affirmation. I know you're surprised, but I do have one.
I have ceased to be surprised when this happens.
Really?
The last episode was the last time I was surprised about it.
Oh, okay. You're never going to be surprised again. Okay.
Never going to be surprised again.
Fine. Here we go. Here's your affirmation. And as usual, I kind of themed it with what we're going to talk about today. So, I carry forward the resilience and strength of my ancestors while releasing their fear.
Nice.
Yeah. Because, you know, it's something I've come to discover as I've learned more about my family, my ancestors in the past. There were some amazing women in my line, just strong and stubborn and resilient. And they just, you know, they didn't live like, you know, big fancy lives, but they were just so amazing, you know, in what they did and how resilient they were. And I want to claim that for myself, but they also lived in a lot of fear and bowed to the patriarchy, you know, me and my obsession with that. And I want
that does surprise me.
So I basically want to take all of that good stuff that my ancestors had, the resilience and the strength and the stubbornness in a good way that allowed them to keep moving forward even when things were hard. And I want to take that, but I want to, you know, here's where I want all the generational nonsense, the trauma, the fear, I want that to end. And we've talked a lot about that. In the past too. So, but I thought this was just such a great one. I carry forward the resilience and strength of my ancestors while releasing their fear.
That is really, really good. And fear can take so many different aspects in a person's life. Mm-hmm. And it's very important to recognize what the fear is doing, because it can be, in addition to just being fearful, it can make you be horrific.
Yes. Absolutely.
So looking at things and making sure you're letting go of what you're recognizing as fear, and also what might be a byproduct of fear that looks worse or not like fear. So
yeah, because the thing about fear is very important to keeping us alive.
Yes.
But the problem is we no longer live necessarily in a society where literally everything is out to kill you. And all you have is a stabby stick.
What meant?
I mean, well, other than that.
Wait, I don't remember who we interviewed.
It was Heather. It was Heather, yeah. It was, yeah, so it's a different, but it's a different world. We have different things that are an issue. We're not so worried about being eaten by a tiger or stomped on by a mammoth or whatever. Generally speaking.
I'm very excited to read Shea's alternate history of the world.
In any case, yeah. You know, we don't have to worry about, you know, dying from like diphtheria anymore.
That is true.
So it's like, is this fear serving to keep me safe, or is it gone off the rails and being ridiculous? So yes. We want to release the fear that does not serve us.
Well, excitingly enough, that this entire episode is going to be very whiskey focused. Mm-hmm. Whiskey is the drink that Chris Rowan picked. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to the interview, it might not seem like we talked about nothing but whiskey, but trust me, there's some stuff by stuff, I mean a lot of stuff, edited out because whoa, mama, was there a lot of whiskey?
There was a lot of whiskey talk. Yes, there was a small disagreement about bourbon. Or I shouldn't say disagreement, it was more a spirited discussion.
Oh, spirited. Whereas Chris and I were correct, and Shea was wrong.
Not according to my research, but
yes, that didn't matter. We're going on vibes here, and Chris and I were right, and Shea was wrong.
So factually, Shea was right. Vibe-wise, totally wrong.
We're going on vibes. We're pouring whiskey with our hearts here.
Exactly. Exactly.
So since we are drinking whiskey today, Shea thought it would be an amazing idea to talk about it because whiskey, and you probably heard about this a little bit in our Witches Liquor Cabinet series, specifically the first episode where we talk about the base spirits. And that's linked at the end of this episode if you want to go watch that again or listen to it again to learn more.
Yeah, because whiskey is a base spirit for cocktails. But of course, you can also drink it on its own. I'm drinking it on the rocks. You're drinking it straight. Neat. I'm drinking
There's
mine
no straightness here.
I'm drinking mine out of a mid-century drinking glass. I was out of my rocks glasses, so I thought, what can I use that's cute? This is cute.
That is very cute. And I'm just drinking mine out of a little
snifter
whiskey glass. It's too small to be a snifter, I think. All right, so we're going to talk about whiskey, magic, ancestral rites, and all that cool stuff.
All that cool stuff. So the origins of whiskey began you could say 2,000 years ago when in Mesopotamia they sort of invented distilling. But the origins of whiskey itself was actually really, you could say, are about 1,000 years old. So all these monks, Celtic monks, brought the brought the distilling process from which had spread throughout mainland Europe, and they brought it over to Ireland and Scotland specifically. And
which means that the only true whiskeys are Irish and Scottish whiskeys.
Well, no, they tried that, but
vibes.
Okay. We won't go into reality. We'll just do vibes. So,
thank you.
In Ireland, so this is why whiskey is, and Scotch, bourbon, other types of whiskeys are all deeply connected to those with Scottish and Irish roots. There's just this deep connection with that kind. Sort of like there's a deep connection with port to Porto. I mean, yes, other places make port-like wines, but you're shaking your head at me.
Yeah, because nothing can be port-like. It's not from port.
No. But I mean that connection. I'm talking about the connection.
I know. I am being pedantic and rude.
You are, but I'm so used to it, it just goes over my head.
Wow.
Because I am also being snarky and rude. So, the Irish term for whiskey is pronounced Uisce Beatha, which literally is the translation from Old Irish, from Latin to Old Irish. When the Celtic monks wanted to translate, so aqua vitae, of course, as we know, water of life, is what they called distilled spirits in the Roman Empire and all that stuff. And
in a lot of places still today, that is a drink you can get.
Absolutely.
If you're brave.
It's not my bag of tea. So they translated it because it used the same process when they were making whiskey, but they were, they didn't have a lot of grapes hanging around, so they used what they had, which was grain. And in Scotland, it's Uisce Beatha. Over time, it was shortened and warped and morphed until we get the anglicized whiskey. So there we go.
I like that. This is new information for me, and I love etymology, so this was very fun.
Me too. And it makes sense. It's Uisce, whiskey. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. or Ishka whiskey. So both Ireland and Scotland claim that they did it first, of course.
Of course.
But the first known written reference is Irish from 1405, where this monk writes down that this guy, like, basically died from drinking too much whiskey. But it's, like, phrased in such a way as that he lost his head due to an overindulgence in Ishka, Ishka, and which I think is kind of hilarious.
That is pretty fun.
Not for him, but
or his family. It might have been fun for him.
Maybe,
but maybe not his family.
Maybe
and
not his
close
family.
Personal friends.
Probably not. But in Scotland, it's not mentioned until 1494. But either case,
15th century.
Yeah. Either case, it had already been there because the monks brought it between about 1000 and 1200. It was medicinal, right? So they literally viewed it as medicine. It wasn't just out among people sipping by a fire.
Right, that's why water of life, yeah?
Yes, exactly. Because they literally believed that in addition to curing all ills, that this would prolong life if you had this whiskey. And I suppose...
If you didn't lose your head with it.
Yeah, if you didn't lose your head with it, yeah. It would have killed bacteria and things of that nature. And so it probably could actually extend your life just through that.
Well, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in a lot of places, alcohol often was a drink that people had because it was safer than water.
Yeah.
So drinking things like weak beer or whiskey really can prevent, I believe, the aforementioned dysentery.
Right, because, putting some, now think about it, they probably had a much stronger version actually than we have initially as far as proof goes. But they probably, if they put it in water or drink it instead of water, it would have been safer to drink for sure than certain places, particularly if you lived in a city or a town, I imagine. And that was mentioned in my research, that was, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't wrong.
You were not wrong. They used it as this medicine, right, this whole time, and it was very strictly rationed and very strictly given out as medicine. But in the 16th century, Henry VIII went and dissolved the monasteries, and the monks became independent, and they were like, oh, hey, we can see an opportunity here. So they began producing more whiskey and distributing it to the public. And it became a drink rather than just purely medicinal. Although, ask any Irishman and he will still tell you that whiskey will cure all ills. He will tell you.
That sounds legit. I don't have any Irish folk to ask immediately.
Right.
But I will look for one and verify that this is a fact.
Well, Alan has a cousin-in-law that is Irish, and so I am sure that I can send him. He lives in Dublin, so he's just Irish all the way. So I'm fairly certain.
Can you do a text exchange so we can have proof of this?
I'm sure Alan could if I asked him.
Yes, let's do this for science.
For science. So eventually, of course, it made its way to the Americas, or mostly North America, the U.S. and Canada, via Scottish and Irish immigrants. Here in the U.S., it eventually evolved into bourbon whiskey, which is what sparked the whole spirited debate. But bourbon is strictly United Statesian.
Yes.
Yes. It is.
No one else wants it.
It's delicious, but it's actually our official.
It's just me that doesn't like it. Most people seem to.
It's our official distilled spirit of this country as of 1964, which I did not
know that.
No, I did not know it either, which is so interesting. But literally, you could make bourbon outside of the U.S., but much like in you can't call it champagne unless it comes from Champagne, France, right?
Correct.
it's the same situation. You can't call it bourbon unless it comes from the United States.
That is
So,
correct
yes,
also.
you could
It no
say
longer
it's a
has to be Kentucky, though. It
right.
used to
No,
be it could only be Kentucky, but that's not true anymore.
Kentucky. It's never been true. Kentucky
Oh, I
tried
thought
it.
it was.
No,
Okay.
Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky tried it. They really tried hard, but it was already being made. Well, Tennessee was just as well known, and they weren't having that. So it's basically they. I think there was a few places like Kentucky, Tennessee, and maybe a couple other places where it was a small area. But eventually, yes, it was anywhere in the United States that makes bourbon can call it bourbon. But it has to follow very, very strict guidelines of how it's made, unlike whiskey in general, which is a little more loosey goosey.
Yeah.
So that's why all bourbons are whiskeys, not all whiskeys are bourbons. But bourbon is a very specific thing to the point where some folks do not consider it a whiskey, but technically it is. And
It is
hence,
whiskey. It's just
yes,
bourbon
it's,
is whiskey, but
yeah,
most whiskeys are not bourbon.
right. You've got it just like Scotch is a whiskey, but not all whiskeys are Scotch. It's the same
Correct.
situation. But now for the magic. Whiskey can be used in spells to promote change, usually when change is unwanted by someone else. To me, this is a very, not matriarchal, but it's a very, like, almost feminine vibe because, women they often would have to do things a little bit underhanded. Like, if they wanted something, they had to kind of work around it, because if they just said, I want this thing, men is like, no, no, no. But it helps bypass that interference and bring change in the way that those that oppose change do not immediately notice. And this also sounds like what's going on right now, We got all kinds of nonsense happening, and we're trying to change. The thing that's really going to change things is that sort of bypassing all that nonsense and changing it underneath from the ground up.
I love that you say here that whiskey was used to ward off the fae, which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons why it's a protection, or it's left out
Uh-huh.
as offerings to appease the puka.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I love that the fae are like, ugh!
Yeah.
And the puka are like, yes, please.
Gimme,
Like,
gimme, gimme more. Like, literally, I was reading that these distilleries, so they would have legal distilleries in Ireland, but then they would have sort of these illegal distilleries as well, where they would make what they called Irish moonshine. And it was whiskey. It was just illegal whiskey.
yeah,
And so they didn't want the puka coming in and messing up everything, which is kind of what the puka do. So they
yeah.
would literally put out whiskey for the puka, so the puka would leave their distillery alone. So it's often linked to attracting or encouraging spirits in ritual work for that reason, because of that. So we're trying to attract not maybe the puka, but we're trying to attract the spirits to help us, or attract the ancestors to help us in our ritual work. So I did a little research into ancestral rites and ancestral worship for some of your and my ancestry, because a lot of the, and I mean, I don't know a huge amount about ancestral rites, but what I do know is usually like from Central South America, or like from hoodoo, voodoo, that sort of thing, because we see that a lot, and I've read some about it. But every people had their own sort of little ancestral, the way they dealt with the ancestors, whether it was through worship or through some other kind of ritual. In the Celtic Druidic tradition, which of course pertains to Irish and Scottish and whiskey eventually, many practitioners would perform types of ancestral rites during Samhain, similar to like Day of the Dead, etc. Whiskey would not have been involved during Druidic times, but modern Druids do use it because we now have that tool, and it is now connected to us and many of our ancestors. The Baltic Finnic paganism, which you've got quite a bit of Finnish, and I have a little bit of Finnish also, included necrolatry. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but basically,
Necrolatry?
that's the word. Yes, worship of the dead. And it shared some features with Norse paganism, like sitting out, which was where they would sit where the person was buried, sit on the grave, and they would commune with the dead for the purposes of divination. And Sami traditional beliefs and practices, which you have that ancestry, I have a little bit of that. It commonly emphasized veneration of the dead and of animal spirits. So when the missionaries were trying to convert the Sami, it really didn't go very well because, one of the predominant worldviews of the Sami is that the living and the departed were regarded as two halves of the same family. Like, there wasn't really this division between, oh, these people are dead and gone and and these people are alive. It was like, they're both, okay, yes, these are alive and these are dead, but they're both part of the family. And they would talk to and commune with the dead, departed family members, just like they would almost the living family members, from what I understand from what I read. It was so fundamental to them that they had this living dialogue with the departed. What the heck? Let's get to witchcraft here. What the heck do ancestral rites, how do they relate to the witches today? How do these ancient rites relate to us today as witches? So I believe that in removing ourselves from our ancestors, like removing ourselves from the past, we lost something important. We lost that connection to the past. We lost that connection to each other and even to the future, because it's all connected. It's not a separate thing. It's all wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey circle of life stuff, right? She's laughing at me. But I mean,
I'm not laughing at you.
It's all connected. It's very hard to have a future without a past, right? And we don't need to dwell in the past, but to be connected to it, to have that ribbon woven through. The past made us who we are, and who we are is how we create the future. Now I'm getting very esoteric here.
It was great, though.
Thank you. I think it's the whiskey. Okay, today's witches often honor the past through reclaiming their matriarchal power, because most experts believe, through their research of ancient peoples, they do believe we were a matriarchal society for a very long time, or at the very least a matrilineal society. Patriarchy pretty much tried to wipe out the matriarchy completely, although it still exists in small pockets, and that's how they study those modern matriarchies, by reclaiming that matriarchal power. That's how we honor that past as well as create a better future. And connecting to the knowledge of the past while embracing this modern world, it gives us this connection of, not getting lost in this fast-paced, crazy society. It gives us roots to keep us rooted.
So we are connected to those who went before us at the very deepest levels of our DNA.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Science, again, yay science, has proven that we carry the trauma and wounds of our own past and the past of our ancestors, and generational trauma that is both passed down via learning and via experiences, but there's also generational trauma that is passed down biologically. And there's scars that can be left on both sides. And if you think about how I, who was not born in 1952, existed in 1952, and my daughter, who just turned 14, existed in 1976, when my mom was pregnant with me. It's banana crackers.
Yeah. It's wild.
Think about that. There's so much connection, and it should not be controversial to talk about generational trauma and that our pasts and our ancestry matters.
I mean, there is a reason besides just patriarchy and racism, although those are two huge reasons, why generational poverty exists. Because poverty literally creates scars on the body and the psyche. And that is translated from generation to generation to generation. Absolutely racism absolutely patriarchy plays into poverty hugely, hugely.
Mm-hmm.
In matriarchy, poverty does not exist in the way we think of it, because everybody has a seat at the table, everybody is equal, everybody, all, community works together. Nobody goes hungry. But in patriarchy, in capitalism, in racism, there's divides between the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
And so that absolutely plays a huge role in generational poverty. But generational poverty is also a scar that carries through the generations, that contributes to itself as well.
But I think we
Absolutely.
just talked through all this negative stuff.
I know.
But you know what? We don't just inherit the bad stuff. It's not just
We inherit,
generational trauma.
yes, I know. We inherit the good stuff too. Like, I inherited my creative drive. I inherited my problem solving ability. I created my resilience. I inherited my resilience, my ability to overcome difficult times and still have joy and hope. Like, all of those things come through my ancestral line along with everything else. And I'm rather proud of the fact that, especially the women in my line, carried all those things along with whatever else they may have carried. And I love that. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that too. Unless you follow a specific spiritual path with specific practices for ancestral rites, I suggest creating something that resonates with you and your personal practice that comes from your own ancestry. And so, Amy, do you practice any personal ancestral rites?
I don't have personal ancestral rights at this moment, but I am on a journey of discovery for what that's going to mean for me.
I never really thought about ancestral rites until quite recently, because even though I knew people, people did altars at Samhain, and people did, it was just never anything that really spoke to me, because I always think of my immediate ancestors, and
Hmm.
they were all very religious, and the idea of ancestral rites would have horrified them. And I'm like, these are not people that, I love them, do not get me wrong, but calling them for help, or in ritual would not be something that I would do. But I realized that actually our ancestry goes back way, 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 way further. 1,000 years ago, one of our ancestors, what they were doing, and if they could see us now, like how we are, they would be like, our daughter is fat and rich. And, think about it. I have more than one pair of clothes. I live in a house with 3 bedrooms.
A thing that I would like to recommend to everybody who's listening, a lot of what I have in my ancestry is it's very much, book of whatever book of the Bible it is, that so and so begat so and so, and you don't have the stories. Like, I can trace a line,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have the stories. So if you have still living ancestors, still on this side of the veil,
Mm-hmm.
get the stories,
Get
because
the
that's
stories.
so amazing. And
Yeah.
if you don't have living ancestors, you are the one with the stories. So make sure you're
Mm-hmm.
writing those down and
Yeah.
passing them on. Even
Yes.
if you don't have your own children, there are people, nieces and nephews
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the people you need to be passing your stories on to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let these stories disappear the way a lot of my family stories have.
Yeah. There are these people in my line, and I am one of these people. I am one of
You
the
are that
aunts.
person
I
now.
am
Yeah,
that
you're an
person
aunt.
now.
Yeah.
I'm an aunt. I love it. I love it. So, yes, if you can't find stories, then tell your own story. And even if you can find your own, your own story, retell
Oh
them
yeah.
with your story. It's
Both.
important.
Right.
Both. Yes. We talked a lot about the ancestral rites. So let's talk about using whiskey, because we're talking about whiskey in these rites. So, of course, as I said before, that your right should speak to you and reflect your heritage and your ancestors unless you've been invited or inducted into a specific practice. That's the caveat. If you have been invited and inducted into a practice that maybe isn't your own, but you've been invited in, that is now your practice. You have been invited.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would say follow your own ancestry, your own spiritual practices. Whiskey reflects my ancestry, so that's what I would use above anything else, except maybe wine. But here is a general rite anyone can perform, and you can use whiskey, or if there's, maybe if you're from a different, you have a different background, maybe for French, it's wine, or if you're from Porto, it's port, or
Not sure how far back.
I don't either. But wine goes way far back in a lot of places.
Yes,
So
yes.
wine is always safe. Whiskey, I give you permission. So leave a shot of whiskey as an offering on your ancestral altar. That's one thing you can do. I have not yet done an ancestral altar, although I'm thinking about it for this coming up Samhain. But we'll see what I do. Many practitioners, I did a little bit of research online where practitioners was sharing what they did. A lot of them leave that whiskey on their altar as an offering for a few days. Usually 3 seem to be a pretty common one. And then they pour it out on the ground with thanks to the ancestors. However, my research into whiskey and the Irish tells me that spilling whiskey on the ground was considered very bad luck. So even though many modern druids do it, it feels wrong to me. Yes, Amy.
Is it spilling though? If you're doing a deliberate pour,
Well, I mean, there's that also. Possibly. But
I not sure. It's waste.
to me, it's wasteful. And I feel like my ancestors would cringe at the wastefulness of it. And in fact, I know some of them would turn in their graves over wastefulness of any kind.
Well, maybe they're turning in their graves because they're just getting a sip.
See, there's that also. But
They're like,
like,
ooh.
yeah, so modern druids might
That's
do
my
this, but
image.
yeah, it just feels wrong. It feels wrong on so many levels.
And again, it's the you do you boo. Like,
Right, you do you, boo. If you think pouring it out on the ground is the way to go right ahead. But instead, I prefer what some practitioners mentioned they do, and I thought this was fun. After it's sat out for how many ever, whatever, they take the whiskey, they toast their ancestors, and then they drink it themselves. And I'm like, nice. Because my ancestors would definitely smack me up the head for wasting good whiskey. Or anything really.
and you do not want a ghostly smack upside the head.
No, you really don't. You really don't. So that's what I personally would do if I were to do this. So those are that's just a couple of different ways you can honor your ancestors with whiskey. Amy, can we talk about our cocktail of the day? Again,
Oh,
air
yes.
quotes.
Again, I think that you're going to be very surprised about what we will be drinking today. But in honor of our guest, C.N. Rowan, we are drinking one of his favorite potions.
Ooh.
And what he said when I asked him was single malt Scotch. So because I am a professional, went to a whiskey bar, the aforementioned one here in Porto, where you should all, if you're in Porto, call me, we'll go. And I tried some single malt. I'm not a big fan of Scotch, but what I found was single pot still, which still has the word single in it. And it's Irish, which is my preference for whiskey. So here, I'm going to make this drink on camera for y'all, because I'm fancy like that.
Oh man, this is super fancy. I can't wait.
I don't usually do this. I don't usually make drinks on camera during the pod, but I'm doing it now.
Okay.
Here we have my Redbreast 12 single pot distilled Irish whiskey. And so the steps are pretty complicated, so follow along. You can pause and rewind as needed.
I'm going to watch very closely. Because I'm not sure.
Very squeaky.
Okay, you're opening the bottle. Okay. She's opening the bottle, everyone.
Okay, bottle is now open. So I have my open bottle, and now I'm going to take my glass. Here we go. This is the complicated part.
Okay. She's pouring the whiskey from the bottle into the glass.
Okay, now this is important. The next
Okay.
step is very important.
Okay.
Put the bottle down, replace the cap.
So you don't spill any whiskey if you get overly excited.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And now, here's my finished product.
Ah, that was so fancy! Cheers!
Cheers.
Mm.
Um, so, the ingredients for our drink today is 1.5 ounces of whiskey of your choice,
Or
which is about
pour,
45 mil. I poured with my heart. I
pour
don't think
with
this
your.
is 45 mil.
Yeah, I poured also with my heart, and I'm pretty sure I got more than 45 mil. Yeah.
Shea prefers bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, have my Irish whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Ice is optional. You can serve it on the rocks. You can serve it neat. Some people like to add a little bit of water to that can release some of the aroma.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information out in the world about how to appreciate whiskey, and I am not your resource on that because I
No.
appreciate very little whiskey. This is this Irish whiskey, some Irish whiskey. That's all
Yeah.
you're getting from me.
I prefer bourbon over any other type, and I prefer, if I'm going to drink whiskey that's not bourbon, I do prefer Irish whiskey. I do not prefer Scotch. It's too peaty, smoky, whatever.
Well, there's the Highland Scotch and the Lowland Scotch, and I
Right.
think the one that's not smody and smody,
Smoky.
that's what smoky and peaty. That I made that
Yes.
word up
Smody.
for reasons. Smoky and peaty. That one I think I like, but I think that's Lowland Scotch. I think Highland
Mm.
Scotch is the one that uses peat, which obviously
Yes,
makes
I
it
think so.
smokier.
Right.
But whatever, I'm obviously not any kind
Yeah.
of whiskey or Scotch expert. We don't do that
Yeah. No,
Scotch
we
thing.
that's not. If you go to your local whiskey bar, do some flights, maybe they have a little
Come visit
class
me
or
in
something.
Porto. I'll
Yeah.
go with you
Yeah,
for
come to Portland.
science.
Come to Portland. I'll go with you for science. And the magical energies of protection, cleansing, and transformation. So, shall we go have a chat with C.N. Rowan? See what he's up
Let's
to?
do it.
Yes,
And
let's go.
please, I am so excited for you all to hear me do the introduction and read his bio because I did an amazing job.
You really did.
We are so excited to have C.N. Rowan with us today.
Woo!
C.N. Rowan came originally from Leicester, England, somehow escaping its terrible, terrible clutches. He's only joking. He's a proud Midlander, really. And he wound up ending in the South. For fuck's sake. I'm going to start over.
Okay, shall we pause
I
again?
worked on all of my pronunciation for, the town names and then did not, learn how to read regular words. We are so excited to welcome C.N. Rowan to the podcast today. C.N. Rowan came originally from Leicester, England, somehow escaping its terrible, terrible clutches. Only joking, he's a proud Midlander, really. He wound up living in the southwest of France for his sins. Only not for his sins, otherwise he'd have ended up living somewhere really dreadful, like Leicester. Again, joking, he really does love Leicester. He knows Leicester could take a joke, unlike some of those other cities looking at you, Slough. With multiple weird strings to his bow, all of which are made of tooth floss and liable to snap if you tried to use them to do anything as adventurous as shooting an arrow, he's done all sorts of odd things, from running a hip-hop record label, including featuring himself as a rapper, to hustling disability living aids on the mean streets of Seist. He's particularly proud of... Listen, bios are not usually this hard for me. And
I crafted this specifically to trip you up, Amy. It was all deliberate.
This is the best bio. Like, it's killing me. I love it.
It's killing me more. I can't even do it. Okay, I'm not starting over. I'm just going to either edit this out or make myself look ridiculous in the intro. Okay. Go. He's particularly proud of the work he's done managing and recording several French hip-hop acts.
Several.
Several.
Several
Wow.
pop acts. And is currently awaiting confirmation of wild rumors he might get a gold disc for a song he recorded and mixed.
Indeed. Indeed.
And that's the end of the episode because that's all the words I got in me. So, sorry.
Excuse me.
They weren't even
You'll
good
be
ones.
choking over here, me.
Oh my god.
This
I
is the,
swear I know how to read.
do you though?
I practiced so much to pronounce Slough and Leicester that I couldn't
Actually read the bio.
But I appreciate all the work on the pronunciation, which was chef's kiss. Perfect. So, good work.
So I have a super important, this is the most important question that we ask all our guests. It is the most important question ever.
Come on.
What is your favorite beverage of choice?
It's a very, very easy one. My favorite beverage of choice is single malt whiskey. I cannot go wrong with that. That's not a single malt whiskey you're waving there, shall you?
We've had this argument before we start. Shall we say a spirited conversation?
Yeah, spirited. I like it.
Whether or not bourbon is whiskey. And experts will tell you because I took a class. Granted, it was in a class put on by Americans for
I was about to say, is this an American class by any chance?
Yeah, this is an American class. That all bourbons are whiskey, but all whiskeys are not bourbon.
I'm gonna. To which my answer was, all bourbons are bourbons. Not all whiskeys.
And to which I replied,
and I'm here to back Chris up on this one. So.
and
Sorry,
he's backing up Chris. And I'm here to say, I don't give a flying French horn. This is frickin' delicious. And it is whiskey adjacent, if nothing else.
Whiskey adjacent, I'll accept. I'm looking at Totori, actually. Totori, which actually has been aged in a bourbon barrel. So this is a Japanese blended whiskey.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm a really big fan of Japanese whiskey. I think I used to only drink Scotch, but I think the Japanese have really nailed it. My favourite, actually, and I kind of on an easy tipple, is probably the Nika coffee grain, which is done through an old coffee grain still that they imported. And it is just so smooth. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
I've been wanting to try Japanese whiskey. Amy's been doing some Japanese gin as well.
Oh.
The Roku?
Gin is my liquor of choice. So in
Mother's
order to
ruin.
prepare for this interview, I went to a whiskey bar. And I said, barkeep, pour me your finest single malts.
Which you said, okay.
And so I tried some whiskeys the other night, and I didn't end up bringing home a bottle of single malt, but it's a single pot still, and so that's a single something.
Single pot, is it Redbreast?
Yes, it is. That's what I'm drinking. Redbreast 15.
See, my bourbon was aged in not just bourbon barrels, but sherry barrels as well. So
I do like a sherry barrel for aging whiskey as well. I think it gives it a nice taste.
It does. It gives it that nice sort of vanilla cherry thing.
Yeah.
The two first single malts that I tasted were both aged in port barrels. No, one was aged in a port barrel, and one was aged in a red wine barrel from the Douro. So I'm like, oh, these are both like almost Portuguese. But then I tried the Redbreast, and I was like, actually, is this what I'm taking home? So tell us a little bit about your author journey. When did you begin writing?
So I started writing in 2022. So 2021, I'd released an album, which had kind of been my return to doing music myself rather than, kind of promoting other people and artist development and stuff. And I'd written that during lockdown, I'd released it, and I was like, right, what am I going to do this year? I was like, well, I really want to keep with that kind of creative vibe going. I thought, I'm going to write a book. That's my target for this year. And sort of by the end of that year, I'd written 5. And it was just like, it just went from there, which was the Imperfect Cathar series.
Thumbs up on that. It's very enjoyable.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad. It's I'm very, very proud of that. And as with anything, you look back on these things and there's always things you'd improve with first books and stuff. But it is a series I'm immensely proud of, and it's very much the story that I wanted to tell. Kind of having the opportunity to mix in the French mythology and history and those things that I found fascinating that were a subject of interest to me at that moment, and mixing it into that very snarky modern day environment. But I released those. At the same time, I had some medical issues, so I sort of had to come off work for a while. which allowed me to concentrate on that. I recorded my own audiobooks as well for that series. Um, Released all that on the self-publishing. Cracked straight into sort of writing my next series, which is the Broken Hotel for Magical Misfits, and whilst that was happening, ended up negotiating and getting signed by Vinci Books, who are then they are re-releasing the Cathar books. In fact, they're coming out in 6 days. In 6 days on the
Ooh.
trade paperbacks, which is really exciting. But I got them. I got them the other day. I'm just going to
Nice.
so nice. Look,
Oh, that's nice.
shiny, shiny
That
covers.
is shiny,
I'm
bud.
really pleased with that. It's come out really
Nice.
nice. Um, and they released the Broken Hotel series, and because they do it slightly differently to kind of most traditional publishers, so they released it like an indie on the print on demand and the ebook,
Hmm.
and then they have the press, the trade paperback that then follows afterwards. So the trade paperbacks for the Broken Hotel series are coming out in May, and we've got the audiobooks coming this year. So yeah, I mean, I say I started writing in 2022. I think God, when did I release? I released the first book in 2023, and here we are, and I'm just kind of halfway through writing my 20th book now.
Wow.
That's
Um,
so banana
That
cracker.
is wild.
is
That's amazing.
bananas. It's insane. It's been so busy. This year I've got a trilogy coming out with an amazing author called Krista Walsh. I don't know if you know Krista.
I do.
She's great, really great. It might be under her, and she's because she's writing romantasy now as well, so she might kind of divide off her kind of high fantasy and her urban fantasy romantasy stuff. So it might come out under Chaos Walsh as a pen name, but she's just working out how she's dividing that. But that's a high fantasy spin-off from the Imperfect Cathar series,
Oh,
trilogy.
So cool.
Yeah,
nice.
which I'm really excited about. And then I'll also hopefully end of this year, start of next year will be my next series, which is the Roanoke Lost Soul Rehabilitation Society, which will be coming out.
Okay, I love it.
I don't even know anything about that yet, and I'm already into it because
Same.
it's such a
Fantastic,
great
fantastic,
That is a great.
series.
That is a great title. I love it.
fantastic.
That's
I
amazing.
So,
really feel
oh,
like I need to up my series title game because the last few people we've interviewed have done extraordinarily well.
So this the series we're talking about today. I
okay,
started the book, and
yes,
I'm like immediately hooked, and I really
brilliant.
like the main character. I love her, and so I. And for some reason, I got it in my head that that was the series we're talking about today, and I don't know if that's the
Yes,
case.
That
Okay,
is
that
the
is
case.
the
great.
case.
Sorry, you asked me about my author journey, and I immediately went off telling you about everything I've ever done and everything I ever
No,
will
no, no,
do.
that's
You
cool.
know.
That's what that
That
question is
is
all
perfect. We
about.
want to know that.
But
Oh, I
um,
didn't, of course, I didn't mention the fact I won quite a lot of awards as well. I should probably, I'm so bad at promoting myself. My books won lots of awards. That's great. That was really nice. The Imperfect Cathar series, lots of awards. That's
I don't,
fantastic.
it's really it's I mean that we do that a lot, I think, as authors. We kind of downplay, like, oh yeah, this one did well.
Yeah, yes.
Like people, why don't you have USA Today best-selling author by your name everywhere you go? And I'm like, because that just seems, I don't know why.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
I won lots of awards. You should tell everybody that.
I
So
probably should.
yeah.
Sorry. So there you are. Hello, everybody. I won lots of awards. Yeah, I think we are talking about the Broken Hotel.
Yes.
Of the Magical
Which
Misfit series, thinking about kind of cliffhangers and cocktails,
mm,
it felt like it fitted. It felt like
I think it
it,
fits
it
rather well.
slots
Yes.
into the theme, and that was my thought process on the whole thing.
Mm. So yes. So tell us more. More about that.
Broken Hotel for Magical Misfits.
Thank you.
Yes. It came actually. It came from a very simple idea.
Um.
One line hooked into my brain as I was finishing the Cathar series, and in fact, I mentioned it to my good friend Heather G. Harris, and she basically said to me, "Chris, drop everything and write this immediately." And I was like, okay. The line I had was the faraway tree for adults. And that
Okay.
was where I came from. So I had this idea because I loved, deeply problematic, though Enid Blyton clearly is, looking back from now, and I don't
Yeah.
buy the whole kind of it was a different era thing. People should be judged, and people should be judged. But taking those books out of that, I had read them to my kids. I'd read them as a kid. But my kids had a period where they just loved those books so much. That's all they played as their imaginary games when they were about 3 and 4, 3 and 5, or 2 and 4, 3 and 5. And they actually had a period where they sort of were talking like 1930s urchins constantly for quite a long period
I
because they
love
were
it.
all like, jolly good, let's go off on another spiffing adventure, and like they just constantly spoke like characters from the Magic Faraway Tree, which was hilarious.
That's
But
delightful.
I had this idea, and I was like, look, what a brilliant idea that is. This adventure where you've got this kind of this ensemble cast of these quite bizarre but funny kind of characters,
Hmm.
all based around this idea that they go and visit other worlds, but then there's something wrong. It's broken. They can't. They've no real control over what happens. And actually, they can get trapped in other worlds, and they don't know which world they're going to go into, or they think they're going to go into this one, and it's a different one. And I was like, that's such a fun kind of setup as an idea for a story. I was like, you could run with something great from that. And so I had this idea of this broken hotel for magical misfits. So effectively, our heroine Briar Hawthorne, who has been an orphan from the age of 14. We've kind of passed around foster homes, survived through reading,
Hmm.
as so many of us do.
Hmm.
And then at 17, she receives an inheritance from her mother, an amulet, which you can read all about that in the free prequel novella, which you can get in exchange for signing up for my newsletter. Look at me doing self
Look at
promo.
you
Thank you
marketing.
so
Thank you very,
Woo!
yeah, thank you. I thank you. And she hawks this and uses it to effectively set up a bookstore. Only she's quite prickly and introverted and basically not very good at business and just does she wants to have all the books. She just doesn't want to have other people come and buy them or have to
Mm.
talk to other people or anything. So the business is floundering. And someone sort of, without going too much in and without spoilers, a loan is provided, and at the same time as this happens, she inherits from her unknown grandmother a mansion in the southwest of London, which turns out to be this hotel full of magical misfits. And so I wanted to have this kind of idea of kind of all of these creatures who have these strange abilities or who have these slightly ridiculous kind of issues. So you've said, the first book is called A Hidden Witch's Spell for Making a Tiny Giant Mighty. So they've got a character in it, and he's introduced, and he's Jack the Giant. And she's like, "Do you mean Jack the Giant Killer?" He's like, "No, Jack the Giant. I'm Jack the Giant. Where I'm from, I'm massive." And he's tiny. He's like about 2 foot tall. But where he's from, he's a giant. Because
Yeah.
all the other people are like 1 foot tall. So he's a tiny giant. There's a Martin who's a werewolf, but he's a werewolf with alopecia. So when he transforms into his werewolf form, he looks like a naked mole rat. But he's also unfortunately he's also a nudist. So she's like, why are you walking around? Why are you naked? He's like, well, I'm actually nudist as well. Do you know what I mean? So he's a nudist naked mole rat werewolf. Anyway, but it's that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I wanted this kind of quite kooky kind of ensemble of characters. And that was the setup, and then mixing it in with all the sort of stuff that makes my sort of signature stuff, with the strange little bits of history thrown in there as well. So
Hmm.
there's the portal is controlled, the portal in the attic, which is how they travel to worlds, which is broken because one of the two masks is missing that allows it to travel, which are actually based on the life and death mask of Burke and Hare, which is true things that happened. So like
Hmm.
each of them, so I'm going to get this the wrong way around. Yeah, Burke had a mask made of his face, a death mask. After he was died, after he was
Hmm.
executed, they made a mask, like a plaster bust. There was a cast of it, whereas Hare's was made while he was still alive. So
Ah.
I liked that yin and yang of these two kind
Yeah.
of infamous grave robber murderers, the life and death, and that was where that came from. So still working in a few of those kind of little oddities
Oh,
that
that's
amuse
fun.
me. Yeah,
I love that
yeah.
kind of thing. Those little Easter eggs like that.
That's very much a
Well, and
Cathar thing, but I had to work it in still.
I'm very like I abandoned your first series to read this book, not because I was abandoning it per
I
se,
was
but
about to
because
say,
we were
I abandoned your
talking
first
about it.
series because it was rubbish.
No, because no, if that was
No.
how I felt, I wouldn't have said it out loud to
No,
you.
I'm teasing, sorry.
Yes. So I'm very much enjoying getting into this Broken Hotel series, and so tell me a little bit more about your main character and kind of like she is kind of a mess,
She is.
and
And
so tell me a little bit more about Bry. Bry?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because there's two kind of ways I think you can go with characters, right? One is that you write characters who are fundamentally kind of they've really got. Am I allowed to swear, by the way? I don't know
Yes,
what the
absolutely.
so
You
you
can.
either they fundamentally got their shit together, right? Or they really, really haven't. And I always prefer the journey of watching people perhaps come to terms with some of their issues or their character flaws, if you like, So
Mhm.
it's interesting because you've got to find that balance because they've got to be
Yeah.
still likable, right?
Yeah.
Um, because otherwise, if you make them too prickly, then people are just like this is just an unpleasant person.
Right.
You've got to find that balance. But, in much the same way as, the Cathar series, the whole thing with Paul, I mean, and Paul is very much, there's a lot of me in Paul Bonham from the first series, clearly, you know, as I think we probably all do in the first stories that we write. But the whole thing with Paul that goes through it is how do you believe yourself to be good when you don't believe it? How do you recognize the goodness in yourself when you don't believe yourself to be a good person? You know? And that's why
Yeah.
the whole kind of Paul Bonhomme, and Bonhomme means good man. Good man was also the name for the perfects, the priests, the Cathars, the good men and the good Christians. So it all linked in, but that's the overriding theme that kind of rides through that.
Mm.
Whereas Briar's journey is much more about this idea of, being rejected, about not really wanting anything to do with people. And even when she has people that she likes or that she trusts to a degree, she still keeps them at arm's length. This is a woman who, she spent the first years of her life constantly traveling, her mum running her around from place to place, never settled, the whole world being her and her mum. Her mum dies. She's thrown into kind of foster care by people, who aren't, it's not an abusive environment in the sense of, what could
Mhm.
be, but it's an environment that's lacking love and lacking
Yeah.
nurturing. And then at the age of 17, she gets this inheritance that her mum had. And she's like, well, what is this? This huge secret, this massively valuable amulet that could have allowed us a better quality of life, that could have allowed us to do all these things, that could have meant you didn't die, mum, if we'd
Mm.
done something else. And so there we are, we're several years later, and she's dealing with all of this. She's carrying all of this, and so her response has been to lock down and block out, and to pull away. But she's
Mhm.
still a good person, and
Yeah.
she is at her heart. Um, and so there's a whole thing in the second chapter where she catches a kid shoplifting, and the kid
Oh, I
shoplifting
love that part.
yeah, yeah. And it's the whole thing, the shoplifting Frankenstein, and she's like, this is a rubbish book to choose to shoplift. Like, there's so many copies of it out there. Yeah, you're going to get nothing for this, in the
Yeah.
in the second-hand shop. And the kid's like, no, no, like we read a bit in class, and I just want to know. I've got to know what happened. I've got to know what happened to the
Uh-huh.
monster. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
Mhm.
and she there's that connection, and she basically just goes, look, just take it, but come back and tell me what you think of it, sort of thing. And she lets the kid go, and that's the level of connection she's capable of at
Mhm.
that time. Like, she can't manage more than that, but it's
Yeah.
also who she is at her heart. She's deeply wounded, and all of that scar tissue has formed to be this huge barrier against anyone and everyone. From that, we have this adventure, these adventures that she goes on, and the time that passes, and a slow burn romance that builds. But really, it's all about the family. It's about the family that she finds at the Broken Hotel. It's about the connections that she builds that allows her to once more have faith in the concept of love. And I'm not always talking in the sense of a romantic love. And again, this is the sort of thing, something that's incredibly important to me. You know, this was the first time I'd done anything with romance, and because the
Mm,
Cathar series is very, very, very deliberately with no romance at all, but with a male and female main characters who are best friends, because I wanted to write that.
yeah,
Three of my four best friends are female, and I wanted to write that kind of platonic but deep friendship, you
yeah,
know, and that stuff matters to me in how I write. And so equally, I don't think I can ever imagine me writing a book that doesn't involve that sense of found family because it's just fundamental to that. Because I really believe that it's only through our connections with other people
hmm,
that we can, you know, grow and
yeah,
improve and be better. I think the moment that we do pull ourselves too far away from that human connection, uh, we are lost, really. We become less and we will wither like a plant that is removed from the sun, you know?
yeah, totally. I think we also have a lot of found family in our books as well. Like it's so fundamentally important to us as human beings to have connections with each other. This is a fun question. What's the most interesting or unusual research you've done for a book or a series?
Oh, okay, that easily hands down. It's got to be the Cathar. So the Cathar series, until my feet went, and I was basically handicapped for a couple of years. I could hardly walk. But hurrah, that's gone, and very fantastic.
Hey.
But prior to that, I was kind of traveling all over the sort of southwest of France doing the
Mm-hmm.
research for the Cathar books. So I went to Astang. So those who've read it, you said, Amy, you've read some at least of the Cathar series. So
Yes,
you've met
yes.
Lou Carcoyle, who is a real mythological creature that is real. That is a real
Yes.
legend, and he really just is supposed to live under the town of Astang. So I've driven down to Hastang to have a look at this incredible little medieval village. And I was sort of planning out where things were happening for this first book. And I'd had this idea. I wanted to go and look at this bridge. That I had an idea that this was going to be sort of a showdown point or a meeting point between the kind of the main characters and the villain later on. So I drove down to have a look at this bridge, particularly because on my first draft of the book, it was very, very Tolkien describes trees. Like it was. It was like someone told me it was like they said it was like a cross between Jim Butcher and Umberto Eco, and it took me a long time to realize that wasn't a good thing. There was an awful lot of like 5 pages of them walking through Toulouse and all the things they observed as they were walking through Toulouse. Like awful lot of this. My editor thankfully helped me sort it out because she's amazing. But like it was a lot of that. So there was a lot of I must see these places because now I can spend 7 pages describing this bridge from the 14th century. But so as I've gone down there and I'm driving down and I see a sign saying Cimetière Israélite. Okay, so I'm like, what? That sounds amazing. So on the way back, I pull over, and there's kind of the sun setting. There's this old ruined castle in the background, right? And then there's this just this hillside, and I go up into this hillside, and there's all these slabs, like the ones you would kind of put on top of a sarcophagus or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all kind of inscribed. They're inscribed in Hebraic, and they've got various symbols, and some of it's in English, and they're from the 16th century. So I started doing some research, and funnily enough, the people I stayed with in the Airbnb, the guy was a history teacher. So, I'm like, tell me about these 15th, 16th century gravestones I
Yeah.
found. And he's like, yeah, this was all from the Spanish pogrom because the southwest, this sort of area of the south of France, the southwest of France, had always been very, very inclusive and welcoming. And, this was part of why there was the Cathar crusade.
Mm.
Part of why it was so outrageous was because, there in the 12th century, Jewish people were allowed to own land. They were allowed to be part of the local governments. You know, the church didn't like that very much. So this was part of it, although not the whole thing. Anyway, so he's like, if you like that one, you should go and have a look at another one. Go over here. It's this town, you know, it's about 40 minutes drive from I'll go and have a look on my way out. So I go and have a look. Not quite as nice, but it's interesting because it's right next to, literally, there's like a thin path separating it from the main church's graveyard. I was like, wow, so it shows how integrated they were. Just this tiny little path, you know, they were really accepted into the community. And I'll just have a quick look at the church, you know, before I get going. Really impressive, very Gothic, you know, very ancient, sort of from the 12th, 13th century originally, and then built on. And I find this door, and it's called a cago door. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? A cago door? And they said, this is where the cago came to receive communion because they weren't allowed into the church. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Who are the cago? You know, so I'm sending emails at this time. So I'm sending texts out to sort of, my brother's a massive kind of history buff, and my dad as well. And like, I'm sending people, and they're like, I've never heard of the cago. Who are they? So I start doing some research. And it turns out the cago were an actual people who were effectively a whole outcast caste in Europe, particularly along the Basque coast. So up along the kind of the top north of Spain, up into the coast of France, all the way up as high as Bordeaux. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people. They weren't allowed in churches. They were fed communion on sticks through the door. They weren't allowed on consecrated ground. They had to be baptized outside at midnight. They weren't allowed to be done in the day. They weren't allowed to work with metal. They were banned from working with metal. There was a couple of other things like that as well. A lot of them ended up being foresters or bakers.
Yeah.
And they were completely ostracized from society. From the earliest records is about the year 1000. The last record of them is between the First and Second World War. And up to as long as the First World War, they were outcasts from society. And basically forced, I mean, you know, quite a lot of signs of inbreeding because they were kind of forced to stay in their communities and stuff. And nobody knows why. Nobody. Still now, nobody knows. You know, there's all sorts of stories about it, and like, were they supposed to be the offspring of witches? A lot of time, people thought that they were related to the Cathars, but actually they predate the Cathar heresy. There's no question of that. And in fact, they used that in about the 14th century, 15th century. Leo X, they went and petitioned him on the grounds of being the offspring of Cathars, because the rule of heresy only applies to 3 generations. So they claim to be Cathars to try and expunge this mark of, you know, of being outcasts, so they could be reintroduced back into society. And the Pope said no. And nobody knows why. A whole group of people that were outcasts for 1,000 years, that were treated as a completely separate caste, that you know, and were a major part across France and Spain. Nobody knows about them, nobody talks about them, and nobody knows why. And I think that is one of the most fascinating mysteries I've ever come across.
That is wild. I mean, I love a good history mystery. I've never heard this before. This is
amazing.
This is amazing. This is wild. Like,
so I built in that.
I'm diving down 1,000 rabbit holes in my brain right now.
So I mean, that all then becomes quite a major plot, kind of as you go into the second book of the Cathar series. The Cagos become a major kind of storyline of sort of things that have happened to Paul and the absolute misery that his life has been, but over 800 years. But yeah, and I had to bring that in because, of course, once I came across those, and I come up with my own reason for why the Cago have been kind of treated the way that they are. And it was great fun to do that. But yeah, crazy, fascinating story.
That is super wild. That I think that wins the research, the Wild Research award.
Thank you very much.
One.
That I just made up right now, and I will now award it to people whose research is the best.
I will treasure it. I will treasure it for the rest of my life. Every now and then, when I go onto a podcast, about 15 minutes in, I'll go, oh, and I won an award for the best research. And then we'll carry on talking about something else.
You have to add that to your accolades that you're going to definitely mention. Yeah.
Definitely used to be in the bio. And it should, I need to have a really, really wild name that she can't pronounce.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah.
The Loughborough, the
The
Luga
Loughborough.
Baruga, as
Oh
Americans call it, the Luga Baruga Award.
my. There you go. I think she's not talking to us anymore.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
She's used to me being slightly evil, so it's fine.
Good. Good. Good.
But only slightly evil.
So that, like, at this, I'm like, I don't even know where to go with this because now I just want to talk about that and whiskey. Um, so if we're talking about Broken Hotel and we're
Sorry,
kind
yes,
of
we've
going
gone.
back to
Yes,
that,
sorry.
yeah, we're going back to that now.
We're not actually
Like,
supposed to be
this-
talking about. Sorry.
You don't have to, but
I mean,
I do have
yeah.
more questions.
Yeah.
I do have
Yeah,
more questions.
let's do it.
Right.
So how many books are you planning in this series?
The series is complete. It's a 4-book
It's complete
series.
now.
It's,
Okay.
it's complete. There's always space for more, isn't there? There's always space.
Mm.
These characters aren't necessarily done. There is a spin-off planned. I've just got to find time in my brain to write it because I've got about 50 books that are screaming at me to be written. And the Roanoke Lost Soul Rehabilitation Society is set in the same reality.
Okay.
Cool.
It's not necessarily, but there might be a character or two who turn up at some point in the series
Very
from T'other who pop across, possibly. But yeah, it's a 4-book series. I wanted to write something that was more complete immediately. Do you know what I mean? Because I've written this 9-book sprawling series with Cathar, and I just was like, I want to write something that's more concise and compact and precise, and that's what I did. Which that left a lot of people clamoring for more. A lot of people who like, I really wish you'd done more than 4, and I understand that. But it was that thing of I want to pull this together in a specific length, and this is going to be the story that's told. And so it was. And this is at least the first story of the Broken Hotel that's not told. Doesn't mean there's not more to be told, but that's the first story told.
So now okay, Netflix called, they're picking up the Broken Hotel for a series. Who do you want to play your main character?
Oh man. Oh damn,
Ooh, we caught him out with that one.
that's really, yeah, that called me out. I wasn't expecting that. Who would I want to have play? You see, she needs to be played a bit like the lass from Pluribus, but obviously she's a bit old
Yeah.
because Briar's in her early 20s,
Right.
which I don't think, sadly,
And-
is it Carol Stucker, the actress? I can't
Yeah,
remember
and
her
she's
name.
in her
She's in her
40s.
early 40s, early to
Early
mid
40s, I
40s,
think,
but
yeah.
she's
I mean,
fantastic.
we do
She's
have a
fantastic.
time machine here.
I mean, we
Yeah,
could,
we've got a time machine. So early Carol Stucker, I think is her
Yeah,
name.
I loved her in Pluribus. She's so good.
So good, so good. So she would play it very, very well because there's definitely certainly at the start. There's a lot of that kind of character in Briar. Zendaya for her best mate, Tish. Silas the vampire man. Who are you going to get to play Silas? Crikey. See, I'm not good on male leads anymore. I'm all out of date now. I'm out of date. I'm not keeping up with
But
what's
that's
going
okay
on,
because, we get the out of date references, or at least I do.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Amy
Yeah, I
is
suppose
much younger than me, obviously, but yeah.
I
You're a
don't know. I
child.
don't know. It's a funny one, isn't it? It's a funny one. I always kind of I like leaving that open as well. I quite
Yeah.
like leaving that to the fans to do that. So, for example, again, going back to Caftan, because we have done this conversation, but a lot of people saying Remy Malek for Paul, which I wouldn't have thought of, but yeah, I can see it. So I
Uh-huh.
quite like leaving that open. So it's my bad. I should have asked the imps, my readers, if they had some ideas beforehand.
Yeah.
So I shall report back to you on that one
Excellent.
Yes,
I love
please
it.
know.
See, that will give you great fodder for your next newsletter or whatever. Like,
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna feed that one. The imps are very, very active. My Facebook group is super involved. So I'm going to
Awesome.
throw that question out to them and see what they think. That'll be super interesting to see. Yeah, I'm going to get another whiskey. I'm going to have a small extra whiskey. That
I'm
would
really
go.
sad I didn't bring the bottle in here with me, honestly. And I don't have a
Always be
butler.
prepared.
Well,
I have a husband.
Since it's only, yeah, you see, you have a built-in butler like I do, but I, being as this is only 1 p.m., I think I'll just stick with the
What are you
one.
talking about?
As Douglas Adams said famously in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, time is an illusion.
It's true.
Lunchtime doubly so.
So that means all the whiskey that I drink is an illusion. I can drink it any time.
Exactly. Well, daydreaming. Daydreaming is certainly a construction of the mind. Day drinking is simply a construction of the mind. So therefore you're fully justified in doing what you want to do.
Fine, I do what I want.
Yeah.
And, how often do you day drink?
Once or twice a week
I know how
at this
often we record.
Once or twice a week at this point. Yeah, seriously. Anyway, we got way off track.
I think we would.
So far off track. Where were we?
Possibly.
I think we were we talked about your plans for the year.
Yes.
We know there's no more from this series
Nope.
now.
For now.
But there is more in the world, if you will, coming.
Yes. And that will be a 5-book series.
Ooh, okay.
So, yes.
So
there's a
that's
trilogy
coming out the end of
coming.
December.
There's a 5 books in this world. And there's a spin-off that I am going to write, which is the time-traveling adventures of a vampire librarian. So that's coming as well.
Wait! You just threw this on
You just
us
sprung
now?
something whole new on us.
Yeah.
But
Oh
that's
my
still to come. That's not. There's nothing written on that. I've got so many ideas, man. I want to do.
So
Yes.
tell us, Chris, where can people find more about you? I know you said you have a very active Facebook group. Where else do you send people?
Yeah, okay, so you can go to my website. It's massively out of date. I have started re-updating it. I actually haven't updated it since before the Broken Hotel books came out, which is how bad I've been on it. I am awful, and I will get that sorted out. It's just the problem is I could spend hours updating my website, or I could write a book, and writing a book keeps winning out. But I will do that basic admin. But you certainly, if you go there, you can follow the link to download a book, possibly both books. I can't remember if I've got them both set up yet. 2 free novellas, 1 for each of the main series, so you can read those, get a taste. They are very different. The Broken Hotel books are much more kind of young adult market. I've let my kids who are 10 and 12 read the first one of those. They keep saying to me, when can we read the Caftan series? And I'm like, I don't think you could ever read the Caftan series. It's very sweary, it's very violent, it's very dark, but with lots of hope. And that was always a key point. It's very much full of heart and hope, but there's a lot of darkness. So that's where Dungeon Crawler Carl sort of vibe, I guess you would say, on that sort of thing and that sort of level of stuff. But yeah, there, you're going to have to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. The big one is my CN Rowan's Imperfect Imps, which is a Facebook group, incredibly active, the most wonderful group of people you'll ever come across. My Patreon, where you can follow me for €1 or dollar or pound, whatever your currency is, or free. But I must say I don't post that much on the free, I've got to be honest. But it's there, and I do occasionally throw some free stuff up on there. And my newsletter, obviously, which again, as I said, you can grab two free novellas and get my inane wittering every couple of weeks, which you can, of course, ignore or unsubscribe. Or, and occasionally I might say to you, hey, guess what? I've won some awards. And then probably just start wittering again. So, why not? Why not?
So we'll have links for all of that stuff in our show notes.
For sure.
You can find Chris all over the place. And
in all the places.
that should be my tagline, shouldn't it, really?
Yeah.
Chris Rowan, he's all over the place.
And he's won some awards. Lots of them.
P.S. won some awards.
Including Best Research on Cliffhangers and Cocktails.
Yes, the Cliffhangers and Cocktails Best Weirdest Research Award. There.
Fantastic. That's a winner.
Unusual. It wasn't weirdest, it was unusual.
Unusual. Best Unusualist.
The Unusualist. It's another Stephen King book.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us about your books and talking with us about whiskey and all kinds of historical nonsense and just fun stuff. It was
Thank
great.
you. It's been fantastic. No, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, a delight, and of course, an honor to spend this moment in your time. And I appreciate it more than I could possibly say.
That was amazing.
I have a sneaking suspicion that if you head back over to our YouTube channel in a few days, you'll get to see the full interview
Yeah.
with Chris Rowan, because
That went on for a while.
that was so fun. I hope you noticed the ghostly arm of my butler sneaking in about 3/4 of the way through that interview to refill my whiskey for me.
That was great. That was so great. So, okay, now it's time for the Oracle card, or tarot, whatever we have.
We're doing tarot.
Yeah.
We're doing tarot.
Okay.
And I'm using the same deck that I used a couple weeks ago with Heather, mostly because this is an awesome deck that I have just been reunited with, and I love it, and it's pretty. So this is the Murder of Crows.
It's so
deck,
pretty
again.
with its red letters and its big old black crow on the front.
Different crow on the
Love
back.
Love it, love it, love it.
Different stuff on the side.
Yes,
But-
got our crow dude and our lady with her crow. Okay. I love decks that open like that. It's one of those ones where it opens sort of like in the middle and the top slides up and off rather than folding out.
So
It's
the
cool.
inside
Oh,
is
look,
like
it's a red
the
crow.
same. It's the same, but it's all in red.
Yeah, like the
on black.
when they do the reverse images, and yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love it.
So my deck is shuffled.
Okay.
And I am ready for this, y'all. So I hope you are too.
Okay.
I'm going to cut.
Mm-hmm.
This is really going to talk about our relationship to the ancestors and the ancestral rites, I think, is what the energy that I'm putting into this read right now.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I just drew the 9 of Cups. Okay.
A lot of cups going on. Okay.
I know, my last draw from here was also Cups. So it's a time of community and family and pulling together, because Cups is very much that kind of relationship situation. So here is a woman, a white woman, with her hair kind of in a little updo. She's got black wings, and she is pouring liquid from one cup to another.
Okay.
And as always, these photos are on our social media when I announce them. For some reason, my camera is really obsessed with my facial region and will only focus there. So, which honestly, can you blame it? Look at me.
mean,
Okay, so 9 of Cups. And this book, it's Corrado Roy, with the text by Charles Harrington, is the book in the deck.
okay.
And links will be in the show notes, as always. So we have our 9 of Cups. Your guides and angels urge you to travel farther and plumb new depths. The journey has also taught you about striving for something and learning to experience joy in what you find. You now know how to fulfill your passions and say to the dark voice of skepticism and hesitation, "Be gone. I have found hearth and home, and you are not welcome here anymore."
Oh.
So the keywords for this are satisfaction, they are bliss, they are acceptance, and how we have found home. We have found hearth and home.
Yes.
And that is so perfect
That is
for what we're
absolutely perfect.
doing.
Yes. And the whole, like, you're not welcome here anymore, that's all about the letting go
That
of
fear.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That is so great. And the searching, like that we're searching, we're going far, maybe not in a physical way, but we're going far, maybe into the past to find those roots. I love that.
You have that emotional fulfillment that you've been seeking for. And the 9 card in all the suits really represents getting to the end of a journey of searching. The 9 and the 10 are the end of a journey. And so when you get to 9, you're at that end, you've gone to the end of your journey, and you have been successful.
Nice.
And this is what we're looking for. We're all journeying to find that past within us
Yeah.
and to find that home and that hearth.
And that community.
Yes.
Ah!
And the night, you're not alone when you have a night. So it's,
Love it.
you have
Love
community. And as a reminder with this card, it's a good time to focus on what you are grateful for, what amazing things have come your way. Appreciate what you have now and cherish it. Because in addition to inheriting this the generational traumas and the generational joys, you are a generation.
Yes.
And so bring that joy into yourself and appreciate it as hard as you can, because someone else is going to benefit from that down the road.
Amy, where can they get the deck and the books and the checking out of Chris's website and all of that stuff?
Well, if you check out our show notes, read our YouTube description, or you can even, for some of that information, go to Instagram. It's all there.
Yay!
It's all there. It's
all
mostly
there.
in the show notes.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, for listening to us ramble about whiskey. I hope that you do some research into your family tree. If you find anything super cool or interesting, let us know. If you have an ancestral rite that you want to share, that you think will be awesome for other people to know about, leave it in the show notes. We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, please share it with us, share it with everybody. But if you don't want to share with everyone, please DM me on Instagram. You can email us at cliffhangersandcocktails@gmail.com. I read all of our emails and respond to everybody.
Yes. You can also sign up for our newsletter if you want.
Oh, yeah.
At cliffhangersandcocktails.com. And get our somewhat monthly emails that I send out to let you know what's out, which episodes are out.
Yeah, follow us on Insta, follow us on Facebook. I'm definitely more active on Instagram. Stuff goes out on Facebook, but I don't hang out there because but definitely Instagram, and subscribe, smash all the buttons.
Smash that like button and
share
it.
But smash it gently.
Smash it gently.
Don't smash it hard on your computer.
No. Be sure to share, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And
yes,
we will see you next time on the pod.